Today I'm making a short video on something called a mag tool or a mag switch. And for those of you, the thousands of you who are new subscribers to me, this will be something new to you. A tool that you can use for safety, for jigs, for repetition, probably one of the handiest tools I have in my workshop. And I haven't done any videos on it for over a year, so this will be kind of a quick introduction to it. For those of you who have been longtime subscribers and are using Magswitches, I know you wait every year for the Magswitch sale. And this year it's on Black Friday. And that sale is on right now till, I believe it's November 26th, until Sunday, late Sunday, and up to 30% off on some of these items. So 15% off on everything and 30% off on some selected items. So you'll want to go there and have a look at it. If you know what a mag switch is, you'll be on your way there right now. For those of you that don't, stick around and let me show you what you can do with a mag switch. Now, often the heart of many of the jigs that I make, I use something called a mag switch, and this is a magnetic switch. And the reason they call it that is because inside here there is a magnet, and when you turn the little knob on top, what happens is it drops the magnet down and it adheres to a steel deck. And of course, most of us have steel decks on table saws, bandsaws, and many other tools. And it holds it firm, so it means you can't lift it. When you release it, of course, you can just easily pick it up. Now, these come in a variety of sizes. This is a 150, what they call a 150, because that's the holding power that it has. I believe this one is a 60, and there's also a 90, which I don't have. But my recommendation, I highly recommend the 150s. You always want to try and get more power, holding power, than less. But there's lots of other reasons why you might want to have a smaller size too, that fits in a different size slot. The nice thing with these is they fit into a 3/4 inch. If you're using 3/4 inch thick lumber, they fit perfectly in that, so you don't have to worry about sizing anything. They fit perfectly. And because they're oblong on the bottom, you can see they have an oblong bottom to them. They're not round. If you drill a round hole, of course, when you put this into a round hole, it's just going to spin, and that means you need to drill a couple of holes to put screws in there, some flat screws in there, so it holds it down. But if you drill an oblong hole, so you use a hole saw or a Forstner bit and just make 2 cuts, and with the big one, about 1/8 of an inch apart, it's all you need to do. And when you stick that in there, because it doesn't spin, you don't have to always be putting 2 screws in there. You can just tighten it like that and it locks your jig. So let's have a look at some of the jigs I've made. So one of the first jigs that I ever made was this thin strip ripping jig. And this is on the table saw. And you can see again the oblong holes. And all it is a piece of wood with some plastic in there. And that's so that it stays in the mitre slot, but at the end of it you can see that there's a bolt, a round-headed bolt there, and I can adjust that and lock that in with the nut there, and I can adjust that bolt so it's a specific distance away from the edge of the blade, and all I need to do is put my mag switches in, lock them in place, and now I can set the wood that I want to trim and just let it just barely touch the bolt head, and now I can push that through the saw, and that gives me a perfect thickness that I want, and I can readjust this again when I've cut that off and make a second one and go on and make as many of those as I need. Now, easily one of my most used jigs on the table saw is this duplicating or L fence, and you can see that I use the mag switches to lock it down in place on top of the fence. And the way it works and the purpose of it is sometimes you have wood that is not flat, not cut on either side, and you need to get at least one side straight so that you can run the rest of it through a table saw. And the way this works, you can see that there's this plexiglass Lexan cover here, which is purposely straight and flat, and all you need to do is use it as your guideline. So as you put wood in, and push it through like that, it takes that wood and makes it absolutely straight and flat along there, so that, and you can make these, I've cut 5-foot pieces on here easily, and they get perfectly straight and flat. Then you can take them to the jointer and then back to the table saw to do whatever cutting you need to do. But for cutting off rough pieces, rough edges, this is a perfect jig. So let's have a quick look at some of the safety products that are available and can save you some stress when using your table saw. So of course the first one is a push block, and that's magnetic, and I like the fact that it's yellow. It's sits right close to where I can grab it all the time, and it's just a tool that is just there all the time. The next one is a feather board, and I use feather boards a lot for holding things. You don't have to push wood hard into the feathers. They just sort of have to glide along it. And this one, of course, is magnetic, so when you put it on there, it locks. But this one has even more, because if you're making dado cuts or cuts in wood, for example, you want to cut some slots. The nice thing with this one is it has, you can see there's these are adjustable bolts in here, and when you lock that down, for example, you can put one here and run your slots this way, then come back and use this one, and now you've got 2 slots inside your wood that are a distance apart, and then just clean out the wood that's in there. So you can use this for making dados or just whatever things you're working on where you need a couple of different distances. So that's a handy item. This one is a great idea, and what it does is it sits on top of your table, and you can see that it's a feather board, and it actually locks onto, there's a little switch there that locks it on, and of course it's adjustable up and down so that whatever the wood is, and again, these don't need to be hard on the wood. They're just sort of there to keep it from moving around, and you lock that down, and now when you're pushing wood through, it's not going to come up at you. So really handy little device for use on the table saws. A new product that came out not very long ago is this one, and it's another feather board, and this one doesn't have a magnetic switch in it, and that's because a lot of people don't have, some of the newer portable saws have fabric or non-aluminum, sometimes composite tops on them, and when you want to put a feather board on it, of course there's nothing magnetic. So with this one, what you have is an expandable block in the bottom. So again, with this one, you can adjust that to wherever you want. And the feather board is always behind the blade, whatever distance behind the blade. You never put it up on the blade, because then you're pushing wood into the blade. You never want to do that. So you just set it up like that. It'll rock it like that, and now you have a feather board that for pushing your wood through, that will keep the wood tight against the fence, and just another safety tool that you can use on your table saw. Let's have a look at some of the items that I've made for the drill press, and these are more safety items. And the first thing is a compact little fence, and of course it's using the Magswitches on there, a couple of oblong holes on there, and all it is a scrap piece of plywood with a straight piece of wood, and you can see that there's 3 little screw holes in there. The advantage with this, of course, is it can fit anywhere around on the deck of your table saw. Lock it down quickly and easy like that, and that's not going anywhere. And the big problem with with drill presses that a lot of people don't realize, especially when you're using big bits, is that bit can grab the wood, and probably many of you have had this where the bit grabs the wood and it starts to spin it, and it catches you off guard, and a lot of people get hurt. They hurt their hands, twist their fingers. I've heard of fractures, all sorts of things. So a drill press is one of the hidden dangers in the workshop that you don't realize how dangerous it can be. So there's one really good thing that you can do with the Magswitches. Now, if you want, you can also get a commercial version available, and it's basically the same thing. It locks down. The nice thing with this is you can put your own, you can attach it if you want, your own thickness and just replace the wood on that whenever it gets too many drill holes in it. But it does the same thing. It moves around, and I use this a lot. I don't attach a bottom to it because I just put a piece of wood up to that, and that's really all you need to do. You don't need to attach a piece of wood to it. You can just hold it there like that and then put your wood on top and drill like that. So, and this comes in a couple of different sizes. So if you've got a bigger drill press and you want a bigger fence on there, maybe you're attaching things to it, that's another thing that you can look at. Now, anybody who's doing some serious drill press work, they're probably drilling into metal, and maybe they're doing some production work. This is a locking base, and of course it's got magnetic switches on the front and on the back. So when it locks onto your drill press, it is locked solid on there. Now, one of the main purposes of this was if you're cutting metal, and I do cut metal from time to time, most woodworkers do, you can actually fasten this. There's some little bolts that you can fasten a vise on there, and when that gets locked on there, that's not going to spin anywhere. It's absolutely safe to use, and that's the purpose of it. But I took it one step further and made another jig for it, what I call a production jig, and that's what that looks like. And by using a couple of clamps, and again using the bolts, because there's 3 slots in here, so you can easily attach this with bolts on slots. But if you're doing production work, maybe you're doing some molding or something like that, maybe you're making pins in sides of cabinets for little locking pins to go in there, and you need to run something through there. You know, maybe you've got a piece of wood that you need to run through there at different distances and lock that down, and that's what a jig like this you could do. Very easy to put together, nothing fancy about it, but for safety and for accuracy, this could fit a lot of different applications that people might be using. So that concludes my video today. A short video just to sort of introduce people, the thousands of people who have subscribed to my channel who don't know what a mag tool is or a mag switch and how they could use it, how they can adapt things like that to the safety in their workshop. There's tons of things that I've done with this that I haven't talked about here. If you go to the article on Woodwork Web, I'm going to put links to all the different areas, not the entire videos, just the clips that talk about some of the things that I've made with these, because there's tons of really good ideas out there. For those of you who haven't seen, one of the things with mag switches is the drag power, and I did a special video on that, and that's going to show up here. If you don't watch any other videos, that'll be an important one for you to look at, so have a look at that. I'm Colin Cadet for Woodwork Web. Thanks for watching. Well, that concludes my video for today. All sorts of people who have subscribed to my channel who don't know what mag tools are and all of the things that you can do with them. Probably one of the most versatile tools that I have in my workshop. And when you get onto it and see the things that you can do, it's remarkable what you can make with it. I did one special video on the mag tool, sort of an overview, and one of the things I talked about is how you can make it make it very rigid, even more rigid than it is now. And that video will show up here. If you don't watch any other video, that will be an important one for you to have a look at. I'm Colin Cadet for Woodwork Web. Thanks for watching.